Welcome to Control Talk, now your smart building videocast and podcast for the week ending April, when, Kenny? April
26th.
April 26th, man. Time is just running together. It's episode 360 where we talk about all things smart building and HVAC controls. And I am joined by your host and mine, the man, myth, the legend, the one, the only secret agent man. I probably left something out, but hey, man, I got COVID brain fog. What can I say? Kenny Smyers, the control man from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Kenny, man, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, Eric. Thank you. In this COVID journey that we're all in, I got nothing but good news to say that Pennsylvania is opening construction sites officially May 1st. I am envious of you walking around with sunshine on. You could obviously see you've been in the sun. You're wearing a short sleeve shirt. I had to put a sweater on because we had 27 degrees in the snow 2 days ago, and it doesn't want to give up here. I don't know what's going on. You give us some very good weather.
Well, we're sort of hibernating. Again, we can work from home. At Stromquist and Company, we're still open for business as usual. And the only people in our building right now are Rob Allen, our shipping department, and our counter people. All our inside sales people are able to work from IP phones. So I have taken advantage of that, been up in the mountains in North Georgia with my wife and 2 small kids on a lake up there. I got to tell you, Kenny, man, been having fun with the kids. We've been out canoe riding and boy, you talk about somebody who makes some stories up. My kids have found Mystery Cove, Killer Turtle Rock. Axel found a beach called Axel's Beach. So, we paddle a little bit and then we pull over and we get out and we explore. So awesome. Having a big time with the kids.
That's awesome. I think, our weather has to start cooperating. As soon as I said it, the sun came out, so that's a good sign. But what we're dealing with, Eric, is that everybody's battling through this the reentry into normal. Whatever the new normal is, normalcy is going to be defined in so many different ways. We're seeing terms coming into our industry that wouldn't make any sense. Reimagining your workspace, but we're seeing that there's a journey where we were locked in place, and now we've got to balance the scales between the health issues and the economic issues. And right now it's either or, so to speak, and pretty soon it's going to be health plus economy, and we're going to come out of this thing. And what is amazing about it is that there's going to be like a 4-part consideration. You got for buildings, landlords, you got a government requirement about sheltering in place, business and public shutdowns. The biggest bottleneck instead of most of buildings are going to be elevators. How do you regulate how many people can be in an elevator at any given time? How do you partition that off? But you're going to see the landlords starting to decide and deal with the government requirements for capacity restrictions, social distancing, elevator control, common areas, blah blah blah, cleaning protocols and modification of amenities. We've just been told that there's not going to be many pools open this year, and the hotels can't afford to keep their hotel pools in order. Then you have reentry as far as the ultimate decision: who's important, who belongs where. How long can you have remote support, remote access without physically taking a presence inside of a space? That's all going to be decided, because the last thing and the most important thing is the occupier. There's going to be official capacity, entry restrictions, social distancing inside of that workspace. And then what it means is that there's going to be more occurrences of COVID-19. And as it happens, I think this flattening of the curve means that our existing infrastructure can handle periodic people getting sick and being dealt with efficiently and quickly, and there's no overwhelming number of people at the door of a hospital, so that we're going to continuously deal with this. It's not over.
Well, I got to tell you, Kenny, I think this is a timely show because we got 2 great product reviews, 2 great guests that are coming on, actually 3 great guests. And I say one way around this is, and it's kind of cool because we're going to talk about artificial intelligence in buildings with our first guest. And, one of the encouraging things, from what I understand with my limited knowledge, is that, one of the ways they find out a cure for a virus is kind of by trial and error, right? So they would, do a computation that didn't work. They'd try something else. But now with the computing power we have and the artificial intelligence, they can take, tasks that would take years and in terms of number of tests and get it down to minutes or hours or whatever. So the encouraging news is, I think we're going to be seeing artificial intelligence used in terms of, coming up with a solution for this. And then, so that our first guest is going to talk a lot about that. So exciting product there. And then the other thing is, remote access. I mean, we're all learning to deal with remote access, and how can you be efficient when you're not actually in the space. So Kenny, I think we got a time we show lined up.
Well, we do. Yeah, the remote operating, but management and monitoring and management is going to be so essential, because you're going to see a lot more people buzzing people in and giving people temporary access to buildings to do certain things, and then changing out the codes and whatever so that you can restore the integrity of the building. But two good interviews coming up, Eric.
Well,
One, like I said,
why don't we just kick it off? You ready to kick it off, Kenny Smyers? What do you
indeed
say
I
about our
am.
first
Yes,
guest
indeed.
on?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Eric, I'd love to. We have two gentlemen that might perhaps be new to control trends, but are certainly not new to the industry. We have with us Andy McMahon, Sales Director, Channel Sales, and Omar Taba, who's the Vice President of Products from BrainBox AI. Welcome to the show, guys.
Welcome.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you having us.
Well, Andy,
Thanks for having us.
you bet. We're glad to have you guys here. And Andy, I just want to start with you because, dude, we've known you for a long time, and you've been the brains behind so many great products, and you were a distributor, working with a distributor for a while. So for our community out there who might not know, sort of walk them through where you've been since you've been at ControlTalk.
Yeah. So, before ControlTalk, I was with Tritium, right? That was my first foray in the commercial automation market. Before that, I was in the industrial side. So, definitely wore a lot of hats. At Tritium, helped build that two-step distribution channel, which is why I'm wearing the channel hat for BrainBox AI. While I was at Tritium, obviously worked with a lot of the reps and a lot of the contractors, and helped get that product where it is today, which is still the 800-pound gorilla, so to speak, in the commercial controls industry. I left Tritium to start a software company with one of the core architects of the company, if you remember Aaron Hansen. He and I and the guys at ControlCo helped start CSI Cubed, where we wrote drivers and apps for the Niagara framework, ultimately selling our biggest product, Data Eye, back to Honeywell and Tritium, which is now called the Niagara Analytic Framework. So after that, I decided to spread out, look at some different industries. I actually worked in the surveillance industry, so kind of a branch off of the commercial controls, working for an AI software company. And that was kind of like going to AI school for a couple of years. And it gave me a really interesting perspective on AI and the machine learning and deep learning aspects of it, and learning all the goodies therein. And I always thought at that point, it would be interesting if somebody was applying that to the HVAC market. And sure enough, I bump into Omar, and he's talking to me about BrainBox AI, and it's the perfect storm. I mean, it's real AI, machine learning applied to HVAC techniques and running your building autonomously. So that's a good segue for Omar, probably.
Yeah. Well, Omar, welcome. And this is not your first rodeo in the building automations control world. How about telling our community a little bit about what you did before BrainBox?
Gladly. Thanks for having me on, guys. So started my career off at Distech Controls, held a couple of roles there, was a tech support engineer, technical writer, and trainer, and then moved into sales, where I was the regional sales manager for Eastern North America and the Middle East. Met a lot of great folks, built a lot of great relationships that I'm happy to report are lasting till this day. After that, so after about 5 years at Distech, co-founded a network lighting control company called Y-Wire Technologies, and ran that. This was a venture-funded startup in Montreal. And then after about 7 years of doing that, joined GE, General Electric, where I led their solutions engineering team for the lighting and controls division. So focused on Fortune 200 companies selling energy efficiency and wireless controls, cloud-based systems, and things of that sort. I left GE in November after about 4 years, and joined BrainBox to be VP of product. So running the product management team and the solution engineering team.
Wow. Well, you guys certainly got your source documents in there. It's pretty impressive. Name. How did you come up with BrainBox?
Sure. So the backstory, right? Where did BrainBox, the name and the company, come from? So BrainBox is a Montreal-based company, and it was founded by two gentlemen, Sean, who's our CEO, and Jean-Simon, who's our CTO. Sean comes from the real estate world. He's a part of RealTerm, which is a Annapolis, Maryland-based commercial real estate private equity fund. Rather large, with about $6 billion in assets under management. And Jean-Simon is a lifelong technologist and engineer. His most recent role prior to starting BrainBox or co-founding BrainBox is running an ESCO and doing energy efficiency projects all over the world. And so they met at a New Year's party, and the story is that they got to talking, and Jean-Simon was frustrated about what he saw in the ESCO world as, you know, you do the project, you do the design, everything looks good. The first year, the savings are there. And then surely year 2, 3, 4, the savings start to, you know, diminish. The building starts to drift, you know, the famous building drift. And year 7, 8, 9, maybe lawyers get involved, and kind of we know the rest of that story. So his whole angle was, you know, Montreal is a global hub for AI. AI is now driving cars. We have the local talent here in Montreal. So if AI is good enough to drive a car, surely it can drive an air handler, right? That's the kind of the backstory. That's where it was born. And so they joined forces and created BrainBox back in early 2017. So we've been around for 3.5 years almost, and spent the first 2.5 years in stealth mode and development mode. So we only put up a website in May of 2019. And since that time, we've grown very rapidly. Even without a sales force up until November, we're in 20 million plus square feet of different kinds of different commercial real estate. So that's the short version.
Very impressive. Very impressive. I've heard again, just kind of like the Silicon Valley of Canada is Montreal, and it's a remarkable number of Canadian companies that service the North American global markets that are beached in Montreal. What's about artificial intelligence making its way into HVAC?
Yeah. So AI, theoretical AI, has been around for 40 plus years, right? It's initially university projects, university theories, you know, and all of those theories led up to, if we had the processing power, we could do X, right? So all of these models were built over time. No one was really able to apply them until recently. And of course, it started with gaming and cryptocurrency mining, you know, with lots of that processing power doing, you know, applying machine learning to those things. It's started, I mean, I would say probably the last 5 years, maybe 8 years, but really the last 5 years, it started encroaching on every different vertical. Like, how can we apply those theories that were theories but are now practical? How can we apply those to those industries? And it's just that we just haven't come around. I mean, we have at BrainBox AI, but the industry hasn't come around to saying, how can we apply machine learning and deep learning and AI modeling techniques to running buildings or running mechanical equipment? And that's why it was so refreshing for me, because like I said, I went off and I was actually doing AI and we were applying it to the video surveillance side of the market. But when I saw it, and Omar knows, you know, I wasn't going to join the company if I didn't go see the team and see what was under the hood, and is the product good? Is it practical? You know, can it be applied? Or are clients happy with it? You know, and it checked all the boxes for me. It's real and it really, really works. So maybe we're the first. I hope we're the first of many, but I hope we're the first in most of the buildings that we're targeting and most of the partners we're targeting.
Well, right, Andy. And how does what you're doing, or, I mean, people have so many conceptions about AI and machine learning. Let's just get real practical here. I mean, because obviously you're a practical guy, as Omar is, and what makes it different, and what makes you guys different with this?
Well, I'll give my first kind of, you know, the guy wearing the sales hat approach, and then I'll let Omar dive into kind of the mechanics of it. But the truth is, there are really good building managers, building engineers, you know, and they try really hard to run their building somewhat autonomously, right? It's really, they're doing it manually, and in some cases they're doing it with some programming. But AI, if you think about it, it's a machine, right? We take our time, and Omar can dive into this, but we take our time to build the model of how that building operates in all aspects therein, right? We're using all of our algorithms and machine learning, deep learning techniques to build this model of how that building operates. And then applying AI algorithms to that means we've turned on, we're watching 100% of the time. We never blink, we never sleep. We're always working. And that's one thing that, people can't do. Now, certainly we're not talking about replacing people or replacing building managers or building engineers. We're just talking about bootstrapping them up with this tool that's going to enable them to run their buildings better. And the idea of running your building in cruise control and that autonomous driving nature of it is a good way to kind of explain on a broad stroke what we're doing, 30,000 foot. But really, as far as the mechanics of the system, it's impossible for a person to do what we're talking about doing times, let's say it's a 500,000 square foot building times, all of those different zone controllers, VAV controllers, air handlers, chillers, boilers, sensors, everything, right? So our magic is that we're applying these AI techniques and they work all the time, 24/7, never blink, never sleep. And that's kind of the magic of it as far as the way I talk to owners.
So just a couple of things to add, if that's okay, to what Andy was saying. So the industry, sort of the world is talking about AI and machine learning. So if you look at marketing collateral and websites, everybody and their brother has something there about big data, machine learning, analytics. So it really becomes difficult, I think, for end users to distinguish, what is machine learning and how does it matter to me and how much is it worth and how do I apply it? So we've come up with a few definitions that we think can be helpful at least in the building and commercial real estate market. So for one, our system is a system that is autonomous. It means that it's a system that can observe, learn, and then act in a closed loop way without a human in the loop. So this is a very important definition, and it's one that can really help end users distinguish between solutions. The other thing that is important is to note that an AI that has learned your building has the ability to predict, just like a good building engineer. He knows his building, right? He knows what's going to happen if it's 80 degrees and sunny outside. So the same thing with an AI. It's a model that lives in an algorithm that has learned over a period of time how the building behaves and is now able to predict what the building is going to do in each zone of the building. And actually, if we can show you what our prediction can do. So I can maybe show you a quick slide there to give you an example.
Perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And so if I share my screen, you see a slide now that shows our predictive ability. And what we're looking at is an outdoor sports retailer here based in Montreal. So it's about 15,000 square feet retail type building. And we're looking at, this is in degrees C, so 21 is about 72 Fahrenheit. And this is the last 2 weeks of December 2019. So what you're looking at is, with where my mouse is tracking, that light green with no interruptions in it is the predicted space temperature in that zone 2 hours ahead of time. And then the turquoise green with the gaps in it is the actual space temperature measured by the sensor on the wall 2 hours later. So we're able to predict with over 99% accuracy in some cases. 95 is our cutoff. So 95 and greater, what the temperature in the space is going to be 2 hours in advance.
Wow, and it's tracking right on it, Omar. I'm sorry, this is impressive though. Boy, is it tracking just right there.
Yeah, it really is eye-opening. I have to say, when I joined BrainBox and started to look under the hood in November, this blew me away, because as we all know, sensors that are commercially available on the market, temperature sensors, they're not far from this in terms of their accuracy, right?
Yes.
So that an AI can predict this 2 hours in advance blew me away. And then what does that mean for control? Because right now, or classical PID loop is a reactive type of controller that will, after the zone has gotten hot or cold, inform the PID loop that it's hot, and then you open the damper and you start cooling the space.
Yeah, it's driving, looking through the rearview mirror, right? Versus what you guys are doing, you're looking ahead. Exactly.
And so what the new paradigm is predict, compare, to your set point and then act, right? So I can pre-cool, I can preheat ahead of time. I know it's going to be hot or I know it's going to be cold, so I don't have to wait. And because I can act ahead of time, I can spend less energy doing what I need to do. And so the core value is dynamic control, dynamic predictive control based on dynamic weather forecasts in each area that we find ourselves in.
It's very cool. Now, Omar and Andy, walk me through this. So I've got an existing, let's just say I got a Distech system in my building. Am I replacing my entire control system to do this, or is this an overlay that's informing my existing system?
Yeah, so I'll jump in, Omar. I appreciate that dive on the chart. So as eye-opening as that is, we've also made the solution super easy. So isn't that's you know, simplicity is the ultimate sophistication, right? We have a box. It's got a modem in it. It's got our controller in it, and it's got a switch on it and a normal 120 power outlet. So you plug this box, 12 by 12 can, plug it in, plug your network into it. We discover and send the controls points to our cloud, to our NOC. We do all the onboarding work. It is an overlay on the BAS system, so we're not taking over controls. We're not taking over the strategy that's there. We're not taking over the BAS system. We're simply bolting on, pulling those points up into our cloud. Data normalization happens in our cloud. We have a 24/7 NOC, by the way, in Montreal. So in our cloud, we do all the data normalization, connect everything to our algos and our AI model. We take about, depending on the number of points that we're pulling, it's between 6 to 8 weeks to actually build the building model. But once that's done, then we sort of put it in autonomous mode, and it starts doing its writing back to the outputs of those controllers. And probably a follow-up question would be, you know, can that be overridden? Are you guys taking over control? We actually write it a low enough priority that it can be overridden if the building manager chooses to do so. But that if you do that all the time, then obviously you're you know, going against what the AI is trying to do for you as far as saving energy.
Well, guys, and that's what I want to pop back on, because it's almost like, you know, and Andy, you know, you and Kenny and Omar, I'm sure, you know, we first got involved in the business, man, it was all about saving energy. And then, you know, we all got off on this operational savings and all that kind of stuff, which is very important. But I think sort of ramping up and saving more energy sort of got swept under the rug a little bit, at least the people that I'm talking to. Yeah, we'll say that we'll tune the PID loop, we'll come back, we'll check the commissioning, you know, every year or whatever it may be. But what I hear you guys saying is, boy, we're leaving a lot on the table just in terms of saving energy. And by using artificial intelligence and these algorithms you guys have, there's just a bunch of stuff that people are leaving on the table that sounds like it's pretty easy to harvest and get back.
Yeah, you nailed it. That's exactly what's happening. So if you know the curve for, you know, building management reaction, right? That's sometimes kind of a sawtooth or sine curve, right? So what we're doing with our algos and our modeling is we're flattening that curve. Everybody knows that now with COVID-19, right? Hey, you got to flatten the curve. What we're doing is flattening that curve, right? So, and the delta between the reaction, the way the curve normally is, and what we're doing as far as squeezing that curve, that's the savings that we're pulling out. And we're seeing an average of 25%, sometimes higher. And it's significant considering we're just bolting on to the HVAC system, right? And it's really non-obtrusive. Again, you know, could be overridden if chosen. So it's really, there's no, you know, scariness about applying our technique to the building. And then also just to comment on what you were saying, Eric, you know, historically, we all know this, we've been in the business a while. There are umpteen number of products over the last, you know, 10, 15 years that have been, when we got in that savings mode, right? Energy savings, operational savings, what can we do? And all of a sudden there was a plethora of dashboards, analytics, reporting products, FDD products, but it relied a lot on, quite frankly, the controls guys, the engineers, the building guys to actually do all the plumbing under the hood for that, right? Yeah. So I could say, hey, I'm going to sell you guys, you know, 10,000 fault diagnostic definitions, but it's up to you to apply them. And then they were passive solutions. So that was the other problem. And they do serve their purpose, right? But the problem with them is there's no closed loop on them. They're simple, passive reporting tools. Yes, they show you where some value could be, you know, mined out of the system, where some nuggets, you know, of energy savings are, but it still relies on you to apply those. And that's where kind of the difference between those systems and ours is we're actually closing that loop, and we're doing that all the time.
Yeah. So for our community out there, this is not one of these things where we're going to give you 10,000 more data points you have to go through and figure out what to do with it. What I hear Andy saying is, no, you'll get all those points, but our system is going to figure out what needs to be done with those points and then reapply it back to your system. So you, like you say, you're closing the loop.
Well, and also, Andy, you know, all buildings are different, you know, so every building is different. Every building system and automation is different. And so they're all, does a building have to be running at a certain speed as far as automation goes in order for your product to be able to be deployed? And if so, how do you ramp a building that might have an old legacy system in it, or dreadfully so with about 80% of our buildings have no building automation system in it? Can your smarts, your AI do anything with that, or you have to have basically a management system in place?
Okay, so we have solutions for buildings that have BMS systems in them, and then we have solutions for buildings that don't. So I'll start with the buildings that have a BMS system in them. So we integrate to existing BMS systems. We're brand agnostic. So, you know, name a brand, we've probably integrated to it over the past couple of years. The way that we integrate is either via the cloud or via the site gateway. So we've done cloud to cloud, when we've done site gateway with a cellular modem, or using the building's own internet or the end user's own internet connection. The integration is done usually using the open protocols that we all know, so BACnet, Modbus, and all their flavors. We've also done integrations to more proprietary, older legacy protocols. For example, we just did quite a large CBus integration, but using the CBus to BACnet conversion. And as we know, most systems that are deployed, let's say since 2003, 2004, something like that, have some sort of an open protocol link in them. And that's how we connect, and that's how we ingest the data initially. Then we run into the question of, well, how do you normalize the data? So we've adopted the haystack standard to normalize the data inside our database. And that's what we feed to our AI from the BMS side. Then the question comes, well, what about the weather? So we ingest the weather data in the cloud directly, and we marry that with the building automation data. Additionally, the third leg of that stool is occupancy data. So for example, we use Google Popular Time, which is an API that if you've ever looked at a shopping mall or a restaurant on your Google Maps application, it'll show you when, what the busiest hours are. So there's actually an API version of that that's commercially available for public places, so restaurants, malls, lobbies of office buildings, and that gives us a good input on occupancy as well. So those three things, occupancy, weather, and BMS data, are fed to the AI, and then the AI has to learn the building. And you said it very well, every building is different. Mm-hmm. It's a custom design, custom envelope, custom mechanical equipment, custom BMS. And so if that's the case, we can't apply, and that's why we shake our heads. We see some solutions in the market that are kind of copy-paste solutions. It's impossible, right? It's not gonna work. So our AI approach is to train an AI model for each building that comes into our system. That training takes anywhere from a few days to a few weeks, depending on how large the footprint is. We have some buildings that are over 1 million square feet. It takes a few weeks to train the AI model on all that data.
You had three things. I just wanted, because you're going a little fast, and
Sure.
And again, this is very important, and it's very, very timely. In other words, all the things you're doing. I was on your website. I cherry picked a little bit too, and I'm going to go into what you guys have in terms of what's coming next. And this is very important for people to realize that you guys got this thing down pretty slick. So you have occupancy, weather, and then the control of the HVAC equipment. Was that right?
That's right.
Is that the three primary? So, and then in the event that there is no sophisticated building automation system, you can take the occupancy information that's available through an API through Google and use that to train your or create your intelligence, learning the building, learning the time people come in, come out, whatever, and still provide that tenant an extraordinary savings.
Right. So if there's no BMS system in place, we have wireless AI-enabled thermostats that we can deploy that will control equipment and feed back to our cloud and enable that same level of savings and predictive control that we described earlier.
Well, I just want to give our Control Trends community a heads up that there's some great information and learning to be done on your website, which is brainboxai.com. But you've got some really cool initiatives with the Airborne Virus Mitigation Program. And you've also got the optimization service in response to the COVID-19. It can't get any more important. Can you just give us a real quick insight into some of the things that you have to offer with your artificial intelligence?
If I can just, do you guys mind if I jump in and add one more thing to what Omar was saying before because that's an important one for sure, but I wanted to add one additional item to what Omar was covering there, if you don't mind, Kenny.
No problem. No problem with the wireless. That's us.
Yeah. So just on our strategy, a couple of important things. One, we're a software company, right? The hardware, the box that we have, it's a means to the market. It's very effective. There's a lot of sites, especially remote sites, that benefit from, having a self-learning, self-controlling box that, can just plug into your BAS system. So that's a really good solution, but it's not the be all end all because we're not a hardware company, right? And as Omar described, we can get data, we can ingest data. As long as we can get it into our cloud, that's a win for us. We don't care how it gets there. And to that end, point number two, we actually have a tritium driver that we're a Niagara driver, and it's basically for N4, but it's available. We're releasing at the end of this month. It's very effective. It does essentially serves the same purpose as having our box on site, gets the data from the building automation system up to our cloud automatically.
Wow, that's cool. Very good. That's going to be exciting.
And I know your community, you got a lot of tritium folks, whether they're, direct tritium Vicon guys or, whether they're buying through an OEM. That jar file is very easy to use, very effective, and works great. We've been testing it for a while. So it'll be released at the end of this month, and it just gives us another layer of getting data up into our cloud.
Well, listen, I think we're going to save Omar's, Kenny's last question. I think we're going to save that for maybe the crescendo here. So, because Manny, you just sort of opened up another can of worms, and I think our audience, like me, is wondering, well, how do you guys go to market?
Okay, yeah, good question, and thanks for opening that up, Eric. So my bailiwick at the company is similar to roles I've held at other companies, including Tritium, where I'm setting up the channel for the market. It's something that I've done for a long time. I know a lot of the guys out there, just like Omar has. In fact, we've tag teamed quite a few of the contacts that we have, and what's great is he has some that I don't, and vice versa. But we've been able to start building that those relationships again, introducing BrainBox AI to those partners, and so that's the way we know we're going to grow. Obviously, initially that 20 million square feet that Omar was talking about, that's a lot of direct customers in Eastern Canada, but we know the only way we get into that hyper growth mode is to find a good strategy, through a partner channel. So we are looking, very, very hotly at some of the bigger SIs in the community, and certainly, anything from small, medium to large. We're looking to spread out, not overdo any specific territory. Obviously, we want to police it and have it work effectively. But once they start digging in, most of the reactions that we're getting from partners is, well, wait, I don't have to do any work, and you're just going to cut me in on the energy savings. So I always say this pun all the time. It's a no-brainer, but it really is, because the work is primarily being done by us and our onboarding team, and the benefit is to the partner and the direct end user. So we think we've got a really good formula. But to put a button on your question, yeah, we're working through partner channel relationships.
So if you have an existing Niagara supervisor, you could get the BrainBox jar file loaded in there. And the big question is going to be, how much does it cost? And is it a renewable sort of thing? Is it a license thing, or is it you buy it once and you're good? Or
the quick answer on that is, yeah, we're a SaaS model, so it's a monthly fee. There is a cost, but like you pointed out earlier, every building is unique. Building location, building type, square footage, etc. So the cost of the system is unique as well, and it ranges. So we do have a way we calculate that cost with our partners that gets, you know, proposed or quoted to the end user. And then we typically break that out as a yearly cost, and then we invoice that monthly. So it's a pretty straightforward formula based on those criteria of, you know, essentially building type, building location, and square footage of controllable space. And we found that, you know, the energy savings that we're seeing is dramatic. The cost of the system essentially is 25% of that energy savings that we're seeing. And we share our piece of it with our partners. So it's a pretty straightforward model.
So Andy, are you able to get a sort of an idea on return on investment and stuff like that, payback, based on what you've seen?
Oh yeah, yeah, and it's actually very rapid. I mean, I can throw my number out there, but you know, Omar's been doing this a bit longer than me. I've been with the company about 5 weeks, which is exciting, but yeah, I've seen in a lot of our models 6 months or less as far as ROI on the energy savings. So it's dramatic actually when you look at it.
Cool. Yeah, you're not going to get that in the stock market these days. But Omar,
No, sir,
I'm sort of on the edge of my seat about, you know, Kenny asked this really, you know, great question about the other stuff you guys do. So if it's cool with you guys, I'd like to serve that question right back up to you, and let's get that answer.
So it's a very challenging time, as we all know. And our thinking at BrainBox, what really was quite inspiring about our team is how they were like, okay, you know, no problem. Let's try and put our heads together and figure out what can we do. So there was a lot of research that went into, you know, kind of these solutions that we're about to describe. So after having looked at the ASHRAE recommendations, after having looked at the CDC research on airborne virus transmission, past and present, it's clear that there is some risk of airborne transmission. How much risk is, I think, up to the scientists to determine, but it's clear from the information and the research that's already out there that this is something we need to pay attention to. And so at BrainBox, what we decided to do is to offer up for free for anybody who's interested during this crisis, a service that will automatically maximize their fresh air intake and expel, so basically close off your mixed air damper and expel all of the return air to the outside while optimizing the building so that you don't have an out of control energy bill. So yes, we're bringing in a lot more fresh air that has to be heated or cooled, but if we know what part of the building is occupied, what part of the building is unoccupied, then we can optimize that to the nth degree. And again, using our predictive algorithms, we have kind of an ability to mitigate that. So this will have the combined effect of reducing the risk of airborne transmission in the building, along with reducing the energy required to put this solution into place. And it's free of charge, no strings attached. It's just our way of contributing to what is really a very challenging time.
I love it. I love it. So we got a heart to add to the AI, to the head, the intelligence. One of the things we heard a lot about, especially before this COVID virus hit us, was, you know, the concept of the net zero building, right? Meaning that the building only uses as much energy as it gives back. So there's no net zero. There's no energy loss. And it seems like, Andy and Omar, that your guys, that the only way we're really going to get there is through things like intelligent use of artificial intelligence. So it seems like for our audience out there who is maybe not being pushed now, but probably will be in the very near future to make a building net zero energy, this seems like it's almost a must, right?
Yeah, I think, Eric, you're right on. I mean, we're going to get a lot closer, certainly, with systems like this. And what's neat about BrainBox is that we have our set of rules and algos and models that we apply now, but we have a very large onboarding team. Our dev team is somewhere around 45. Is that right, Omar? Mm-hmm. And we are continuing to add rules, definitions, algos, everything. So we're going to, because it's applying it in real time all the time, every time we add something new or nuanced, it's going to apply that directly to, you know, pushing the building towards what you're describing as a net zero building.
You know, a lot of times people equate energy savings with loss of comfort in the space. How are you guys finding that?
Well, this is a really good question. It's I think it's question number one whenever we talk to a new customer. So we actually don't change set points. I mean, we could if the customer wants to, but generally we're taking the set point that the customer wants or that is programmed into the BMS. So let's say 72 degrees, and we're simply optimizing how the system maintains that set point. So we do it in a in a more energy efficient way. And what we found, which is really an unintended consequence, we were so kind of hell bent on training the AI to kind of reduce the energy efficiency as much as possible. The consequence is that actually the space temp, we're monitoring it as it relates to the set point in the deadband. It's 60% more of the time within the deadband after we deploy our solution.
Wow.
So if you look at a classical space temperature curve on a plot, right? There's always these up down around the deadband, right, around the set point. And if you look at a BrainBox controlled room, you'll see a much narrower, very, very kind of almost hugging the set point line trend. And that, to the extent that set point equals comfort, means that the customer, the tenant, the occupant that we're all trying to please at the end of the day, is having a much better experience in their occupied space.
It makes a lot of sense. Yeah, and you know, the term we've always used over the years, Omar, is hunting. You know, like you said, you got that set point, it goes up,
True.
it goes down, it goes up. So you're never really dead nuts on the set point. You're all around the set point, and those offsets are energy loss. So that's one of the ways it seems like you guys are knocking that down. And Kenny would say, leave the hunting to the hunters, right? How do people reach out, get more information from you guys? What's the best website, contact information?
Yeah, I mean, they can hit us on the website, brainboxai.com. They'll find all of our information there as well. I don't know if you guys can tag our information here on the broadcast,
Sure.
but you know, I'll certainly give you my email. They can reach out to me directly. Anybody who knows me can hit me up on LinkedIn. And again, you know, to make the point again, the partner program is important to us. We're looking for good partners. We do have a really aggressive proof of value install program for partners to help seed their market to where their clients get a no risk install for the first 4 months. They get those instant savings for 2 of those months. And, you know, that's free money for them. And then they can decide at that point.
Andy, hang on a second, because you just said a whole lot there that because, again, most people, especially our listeners from Missouri, want to be shown first. So this is a key piece here. So explain how that works. So you're saying that you would put the algorithm in for a while for free and to do a proof of concept? Is that how this is important?
So thank you for so the show me people, that's funny, but that's very true. You know, and as a startup, even though we know, you know, we love our software and we've seen it work and we have customer testimonials who can prove that, you know, we've saved money, but in the end, it's again, this partner channel that we're trying to grow, and it's the only way we're really going to grow as a company. So we want to enable those guys to have some juice behind what they're going after, you know, with their clients. So they're able to take this as partners of ours to a handful of clients to get their market seeded, to get these proof of value, proof of concepts, however you want to describe them, installed. We'll do the onboarding. Obviously, that's part of our equation, but we'll also include the first 2 months of that writing back, that autonomous driving of the building. It's still at no charge to them so that they can see what the system is doing. On month 5, we'll start invoicing. If they don't like it, we'll take it back. So there's no risk, no, you know, all reward. And also just to dovetail into the whole COVID-19, you know, discussion, this may be a great way for a lot of people that are going back into occupancy mode in the next, you know, 3-4 months, because, you know, who knows, are we going to be 50%? Are we going to be 20%? Are we going to be 100% occupied? Nobody knows. So they also will not understand how to, even if they knew before how to drive their building, you know, in a really efficient way, it's not going to be efficient. So this is this is a good way to bootstrap that exercise as well. So just, it's a good ask, and I appreciate you making that point for me, Eric.
Well, listen, guys, we're really excited about this. Will you guys do us a favor, maybe come back on in about 3 months and keep us updated? I think you guys are really onto something, and I encourage our Control Trends community to reach out to Andy and Omar, and hey, let's make the world a more energy efficient place and a safer place. And guys, this is a great product. So thanks again for coming on.
Thank you for having
Eric.
us.
Thanks, Kenny.
Hey, man, it's great to see Andy McMahon back. Been a while since I've seen him, but one of the great controls people in our industry, and boy, it seems like he landed at a really, really special place.
He is a smart guy. I remember him from Tritium, and I remember him at Realcomm, one of our first Realcomm IBCons, where they talked about that master systems integrator, and what a remarkable event that was, because since then we've never looked back. That was, I think, 2008.
Yeah.
But alrighty, that was great stuff.
Well, good stuff there. And listen, our second interviewee is teed up and ready to go, so I'm about to introduce him.
Love to. It's a pleasure to introduce Ruben George, Product Manager for Building Operator Solution, to our Control Trends community. Welcome to the show, Ruben.
Welcome, Ruben.
Thank you, Ken. Thank you, Eric.
Well, I think
glad to be here.
Well, glad to have you. I think it's my first time getting to know you. So how about telling myself and the Control Trends community a little bit about your background and how you wound up with Siemens?
Yeah, I'm not a traditional building automation guy. I actually come from the tech world. I spent my last 20 some odd years in the tech world. I started my career at Motorola. I tell people that when I started my career at Motorola, it used to be brick phones,
Nice.
and people used to carry it. And I left Motorola. I worked there for about 13, 14 years, and I went to a company called Here Technologies. They were in navigation systems. So if you have a car, most likely their in-nav systems are from Here Technologies, and they're owned by the car makers in Germany. And they kind of compete with the Googles of the world for autonomous cars. So I was there for about 7 years, and from there I kind of, with that company I work in the smart cities and mobility space. So essentially bringing safety to the road with mobile technologies. And then from there I kind of moved into building automation. So I'm excited to be here. I'm learning a lot. I've been here for over a little over a year and a half, and it's been a really learning curve for me. So, but I'm excited.
Well, Ruben, I got to see you out there at the Siemens Talent event out there in San Diego not too long ago, and I'll tell you what, you've picked up our industry quite well, and I was very impressed with your presentation. Now, Siemens is really taking leaps forward with in our time, this COVID-19 time. There's never been a more important time to have remote solutions, and how it's so critical now to be able to control your infrastructure and get things done without physically being there. And we're fortunate that you have a product that I know you're sensationally excited about leveraging cloud computing and capabilities, but actually Building Operator is one of the incredible solutions that are coming out at the perfect time to deal with some of the crises that we are presently dealing with, aren't we?
Absolutely. And you had an article out like a few weeks ago, I think, about building automation during pandemic times, and it really touches this subject, right? Is that maintaining critical infrastructure and being able to remotely maintain that critical infrastructure is becoming a necessity. It's not something that that's like an optional piece, right? So yeah, absolutely.
Well, I just I want to get started on it because there's a lot to cover. So the obvious demand for remote solutions, it's expanded exponentially. I just watched a program from one of the realty companies, Jones Lang and LaSalle, how that is what they're relying on. And they're trying to balance economics and health. And right now it's health versus economics, but it's maneuvering itself into health plus economics. And as things happen, you have to be able to immediately control things. And to do that, you're going to have a fantastic system to do that. And I think that the traditional thing was that remote monitoring would give you the opportunity, if there's an alarm, a boiler goes down, this Building Operator can give a user an opportunity to go see what happened, do some preliminary diagnostics and figure out what was wrong, and then make sure the person going to deal with it is armed with the right equipment and has a good understanding of what he's walking into or what she's walking into.
Exactly. I mean, this is kind of what you want to do in efficient systems. Any kind of systems or processes that you build, you triage the problem first before you kind of send out the right person with the right tool, right? So that's kind of what it comes down to. And this is where Building Operator helps.
Okay, so
Well,
what exactly is Building Operator, George? I'm sorry, I'm new to this product, so I'm
Ruben.
not sure about this.
Yeah. So let me kind of share a couple slides, and maybe that'll help explains this
Perfect.
better. Well, so Building Operator is a cloud solution for remote monitoring and control of your buildings. That is essentially what Building Operator today is. We have bigger plans for it in the future, but as we launched it this year, early this year, and this is what it is. So what does it mean, right? So you have a cloud solution, what does it mean? Essentially, there's two pieces to it. One piece is the cloud application. It's a native cloud application that can be accessed by a user via a web browser. Anybody with a web browser and internet connection can now monitor alarms, status, trends, etc. They can command a point within a building and then access on-premise web applications. And I'll talk a little bit about that. The third one I feel like is the differentiating feature. And on-premise, within the building, you have an industrial gateway, gateway called Connect X300. It's a family of Connect devices. And what it does is it securely exposes building data from your buildings to the cloud. The gateway supports BACnet and Modbus. So essentially, it can not just talk to Siemens systems, but any system that is based on BACnet IP and Modbus TCP. The setup of the gateway is very, very easy. And in fact, I would argue that if you've done it many times, you could essentially set this up and send it to the customer and have them put it on the Ethernet, and you can do rest of the stuff remotely. I think initially it'll be a learning curve, but I think over time, when it becomes efficient, people will be able to do it. The gateway itself has a built-in firewall. It's a managed device, and I'll talk a little bit about why managed device is important. And then it has Ethernet and cellular support. So on the southbound, it's Ethernet. So on your building network, it sits. And on the northbound, it could be Ethernet, which means that gateway can sit within the corporate LAN or separately. And it also has cellular support, which is coming later this year.
I don't want to take your thunder away a little bit, but this is the orientation of this product. Where's it best suited? Who is our most typical user that is going to maximize the building operator? What
Today,
type of market?
Yeah, so today it's primarily geared towards, so let me talk about markets, right? So it's primarily geared towards small and mid-sized markets. And the solution, that's where it fits perfectly. But however, for large buildings, it's scalable. So the solution is scalable for larger buildings, but today, ideally, it's targeted to mid to small size building. And from a user perspective, this is for folks who kind of want something that connects their building to the cloud securely in a hassle-free manner, where the front end is a consistent look and feel across different systems,
Right.
which means that, if you have a Siemens systems or a competitor system, the look and feel is the same. You can access existing front ends remotely. So that's another aspect of it where it enables you to access a talent system front end remotely, as long as it's web based. And then you want the data that's coming out of the building to be stored centrally, where you can do trend analysis or things like that over time.
That's a real A to Z solution, and that's pretty dang formidable right there. Wow. So I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I just wanted to make sure that the ControlTalk community could understand where this is going to be a really good fit right off the bat. Because I know you have a lot of future things coming up to include FDD, but why don't we save that for a little bit later in the presentation?
Sure.
Very cool.
So let me kind of talk about how does it work, or how does it sit. So today you kind of look, you have traditionally you have the three levels, right? The field level, the automation level, and the management level, right? And essentially what you do is you put the gateway and it connects to the cloud. And this piece connecting to the cloud is that security layer. Today, a lot of third-party players are involved in it, where you pay a monthly fee or a annual fee, and you have connectivity as a service, or you set up your own VPN, right? So this is one of the beauties of the system is that we take away that pain. You know, it easily connects, and all you need is a port 443 open, which is the default port for HTTPS connection. So if you are accessing the internet from your corporate network, more than likely that port is open, and every connection or communication from the gateway to the cloud is always happening through that port. So that's one piece, and with that, you know, once the data is to the cloud, gets to the cloud, then you can kind of remotely monitor, control, and access on-premise web applications. Does that help?
Yes.
Oh yeah, sure, sure. Again, I've seen this once before. Actually, I've seen it twice, and I'm excited about it. But I think what's just hard to believe is how much is there, how much this brings to the table. That's a whole lot of technology and a very simple solution. So I just, again, I want to make sure I get it and understand it, and the Control Trends community sees this new offering from Siemens, and it's going to be a game changer, I think.
Super.
This is exciting stuff, guys. Really, really exciting. I'm sorry, I'm having a brain freeze here. Can you believe it? Happens to me a lot, Ruben.
No, but Ruben, you're doing so well. We skipped over that one little section there that was very important of who's it for. So I wanted to
All right.
revisit
So
that
this
back.
is, yeah, sorry about that. So this is really for, today it's set for service technicians, right? So service technicians who are going out to the field, before they go out, they can remotely diagnose the problem. This is kind of primarily who is it for.
Great, and then, so you get everything there. You get all your monitoring, so all your alarms, and then you can, and then it's hard to believe that you could just package all this technology and lay it on somebody else's program. So it's agnostic. So then, what the secure part of it? Cybersecurity now is one of the first trend other than COVID is cybersecurity. Everybody's so paranoid about their networks, and IT people. We either have OT, IT, and people are deciding should they put their own building automation network out there, or should they get them to the IT realm, learn it well enough to. But you've satisfied. If you're an IT person, everything that you have here is going to make sense to them and give them a very good feeling about the cybersecurity measures that you've taken.
That's correct. And you know, I'll give you I'll say this, right? This whole solution is built with security, you know, in mind. So it's designed with security in mind in the first place, right? And that's been given a top priority. Internally, we go through rigorous amount of pen testing and threat analysis, etc., before we even release something like this. So some of the things that I'll tell you, you know, as a highlight, like the gateway. When you install a gateway, it has to be registered to a cloud. The gateway only works with a northbound port of 443. So all communication is only through one port. Every other port on the northbound is closed, right? So no one can make a connection into the gateway. The gateway always makes a connection outbound. So think from a perspective like security, right? That becomes like a one door out only. Data is always encrypted. So data in flight is always encrypted. It uses HTTPS TLS 1.2. That's the security protocol. The OS that's on the gateway itself, it's secure. So you can't hack the OS and the ports on the gateway. So it has USB ports, different types of ports on the gateway. Those are all, you can just, you know, put a OS or some software on a memory stick and try to hack that gateway. You know, so we have taken like all these layers of security measures to make sure that the risk to any kind of external threat is as minimum as possible.
Yeah, and it's flexible because again, our world's being where you can have a separate physical LAN or converge it with an IT LAN. This is flexible and can handle either. It's suitable for either choice there. So,
well, I have a question. Oh, go ahead, Kenny.
Well, it says no IT complexity and no VPN. So I think the traditional way to get onto a site safely was a VPN. So you don't need that anymore. So.
Yeah, we don't have VPN. And the other thing is the device. Like I forgot to mention that the device is managed. And here's why management of devices makes is important in any kind of IoT, environment. Say, for example, tomorrow you discover a security threat and you have thousands of it deployed. Are you going to each one of them physically and update the software on it, or can you do it remotely with the click of a button? So that's where management, a device management, really makes sense, right? And so when you try to do integration with different parties or different products together, this is where the entire value chain kind of breaks down, where all of a sudden now you have to go, update each one of them, and that update becomes very costly. This was kind of who is it for? This was like why building operator. So, I kind of gave an example of like, someone calls, says that building is freezing, it's 30 degrees below. And you can remotely be on be at your home and kind of log in and see why the building is freezing. And you realize that, oh, there's no flow in the hot water loop for the boiler, right? Something's wrong. And so from there on, now you can take action to make sure that you have the right tools, et cetera, before you go to the site. The other thing is, these are kind of, what does building operator give you, right? Commanding a point, alarms, user management from an onboarding and access perspective, very easy. So for example, if the site is remote and there's a guy who in your team who's closer, you can give him access to it with a click of an email, and that person can see the exact same thing, single sign-on, trend analysis. So these are some of the basic foundational pieces we have put together, and more features are coming as we build out the cloud application. It enables you not only with Siemens system, but third-party system, faster response time, right? Higher customer satisfaction. These are some of the benefits of having a remote connectivity solution. But then you also unlock new opportunities. And I want to talk a little bit about this, which is kind of, you have traditional service techs or service companies that can only service companies or customers within a certain geographic area where they have resources, where they have human resources. And now you can unlock new opportunities with digital services where now you're going into this new business model where they enable remote service connectivities or remote service, where you can remotely find out what's wrong with it and then partner with somebody who's local to service that building. So it's a new business model. There's opportunities for new business model. I'm sure there's new stuff that's going to come out, but that's one thing I see will become more and more prevalent with remote services.
Absolutely. I think as again, with this COVID-19, again, there's another reason why we're going to rely on remote, building operator plays a bigger role, but then having, that partnership in different parts of the state or different parts of your market area are going to become more and more prevalent. You're going to see things that were not conceivable 2 years ago or even last year are going to be the new business models. We reinvent the new tomorrow, the new normal. We're going to see business impacts like this where you're going to have a competent partner somewhere else to intervene, to be your partner or feet on the street in a different part rather than roll the truck or support it from home base like you used to. In other words, we're going to see more intelligent partnering than we've ever seen before. And this would enable that. People that get this.
Absolutely.
I think the crazy thing I want to ask is how do you get it? I mean, in other words, how do you package it up and how do you sell it and how do people buy it?
Yeah, well, I want to rephrase that question, Ken, because that's the one I have. But my question would sort of be like this: for our control trends community out there that's interested in this product, I mean, walk me through how they get the product.
Yeah, so today we sell it through the Siemens channels, and basically you call or you contact your Siemens salesperson and you get it through them. So we sell it through our value-added partners, we sell it through our resellers, and we sell it through our install channels. So all three channels will have this available, and it's as easy as ordering the hardware and the subscription, and you're ready to go.
Awesome.
Okay,
awesome.
So you had another slide there. I didn't want to make sure we covered that because that's a very important looking slide there.
Yeah, I was kind of going to talk a little bit about benefits, right? So, from a customer benefit perspective, obviously, the less you spend, so less time you spend driving, your operational expenses are lower, and from the cost perspective, basically a single subscription pays for within one truck roll with a truck roll, right? That's kind of how I see equate the cost, and rest of it every time you go out basically is the benefit that you get. You save travel time, right? So think from a perspective of like 40%, and this is a stat that I got somewhere on the net, where 40% of the HVAC workforce today work at companies with 10 or less employees, and more often out of that 10%, you'll have one or two people who are really, really skilled and knows everything, all the systems, right? Do you want that person to be traveling all over the place, or do you want them to be in one place and helping the other people troubleshoot and fix the problem? So you save a lot of time with this. And then the setup is, as I mentioned before, it's a hassle-free setup, and then you get access to all your sites within one UI, one front end. And from an intangible perspective, you think about, do you want peace of mind? So if you are a facility manager, manages like 10, 20 buildings, do you want peace of mind? And you at the same time ensure the wellness of the building. And like I said, if you have somebody local and you're remote, you can easily give access to them so that they can see what you are seeing.
Good stuff.
Awesome, Ruben. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Well, great. You think we might be able to get you come back on the show and keep us updated on how this is going, maybe in a couple months from now?
Absolutely, anytime.
All right. Well, Ruben, man, can't tell you how much we appreciate it. Anything else before we hop off?
No, it's been a pleasure talking to you, and I know I've met Ken before at the Partner Summit, so it's good seeing him again, and
Yep.
hopefully you guys are safe, and I wish everyone a safe and healthy time around this COVID situation going on. Hopefully this goes away soon.
And same
Thank
to
you
you.
so much,
Yeah.
Ruben.
Yep.
Appreciate
Thank
you.
you, Ruben.
Hey, man, Kenny, Siemens just doing some cool stuff, and Ruben just seems like a really great guy. And you said you actually saw him out at the talent
Yeah,
conference,
yeah.
right?
There was a breakout session, and I remember it was my first introduction to the building operator, and the impact that these tools are going to make in our industry. We've always looked for that scalability. And it always was either too small or too. Mine was the three bears. Mama bear, Papa bear,
Yeah.
baby bear. One was always too big and one was always too small, and you needed something to handle that mid-market, that small market area effectively with all the bells and whistles that are important. So it good stuff. Very good
Well,
stuff.
great stuff. Anything else you want to talk about before we hop off? We've been going kind of long today, but
No,
anything else?
that's it. I just wish you health and happiness, and give me some good weather.
Right back at you guys. Well, listen, man, again, special thanks to our guests this week, Andy McMahon and Omar, and of course, Ruben George. We appreciate those guys. And hey, you guys stay safe out there. We'll be back with you next week. Remember, be bold, stay in control, and stay healthy.
Indeed, Eric.